Video. Yeah, pretty much. Probably. Yeah, it seems. Turn the camera on, so it's probably going to be a video. So much busy. It's been very hot. Well, I'll use the centigrade. 32 degrees in here. It's hot. Yeah. Anyway, and then it's going to get 20 degrees colder in another day. It's just bizarre weather. But anyway, I'm not complaining. Sort of sounds like a complaint, but I'm not really complaining. Anyway, fan noise probably is irritating, but we'll see how it works out. So I'm just going to read some stupid comments because people type this crap, so I might as well acknowledge the crap and then delete the crap. But everybody is just so misnamed and false and fake and phony. These whatever these people are who have, the no accountability thing. They just, it's really the most irritating thing about YouTube is the fact that there's no accountability. People can do things on this medium and you don't know where else they do this shit. There's no indexing. Google doesn't even index the comments on its YouTube videos. It's supposed to be providing you an index of the internet, and yet you can't search the comments on videos. What does that say? Yeah, it says something, doesn't it? The search engine that decides it doesn't want to find the internet. It's only going to show you certain parts of the internet. I mean, it's just so obviously not what we bargained for. I mean, the old days of the internet, it was, you wanted a search engine that found everything, not ones that excluded you from places. It's world is just so dysfunctional. So anyway, and these people are just a symptom of that. These unaccountable, trolly, crappy, shitty creatures that type this mush on people's videos. Anyway, enough complaining about it. Let's read some of this shit. So anyway, this guy who calls himself the Truth Quest, and he has a picture of Tesla as his icon. Yeah. Newsflash, Tesla wasn't the truth. This is a petty, egomaniacal lunatic who, wanted to develop a death ray. This is his greatest ambition in life. The making of the death ray. Anyway, so apparently at 31 minutes I said something. That's exactly the type of shit that I tell people when I compare Southerners to Northerners. Northerners are more racist than the Southerners. They just sugarcoat everything. No, they don't. And the idea of racism has to do with the idea of bigotry. So you have to tie a dislike or a lack of preference. So there's nothing about me that has any kind of affinity towards men dressed as women. I find it kind of creepy. I find it kind of a degrade of an insult almost to women. To have some man pretending, and often badly. But that doesn't mean I don't understand that this is what they are and they have rights and all that kind of shit. So there's a difference between having an affinity for something or the opposite of that, which is a repulsion even, and turning that into a bigoted response that has to do with treating people unfairly or cheating them. Now, the Southerners want to cheat the blacks. The Northerners don't want to cheat the blacks. That's the difference. The Northerners are trying to find ways to compensate for past crimes and to assimilate blacks into white culture. And I guess the word here, the key thing is culture. And now there is such a thing as black culture. And I think in the past there was a black culture, but it was just kind of really dumb and religious, and that was about all it was. Because they hadn't, been given the library card. They hadn't been given access to a more sophisticated ambitions or lifestyles or devotions like science or something. They didn't have those opportunities. But anyway, so there's every effort in the North, so to speak, to create this blending of culture. And that's what I would argue this melting pot should be about. It's not about race, it's about culture. And the point being, I would argue, is that you can't just bastardize, you can't just modify. You do have, culture does have to have some kind of, there's some things you can't compromise. And so I would argue that, the street culture doesn't have much going for it. The whole shoot up the neighborhood for drugs kind of bullshit. Get your crack and your smack and your hoes. Culture is shit. Okay, and it can be called what it is. It's shit. It's shit culture. And that's legitimate. But I mean, I'm just saying that you could say that look, there's Snoop Dogg, black man, and then there's Sidney Poitier, black man. You might even have said Bill Cosby at one time, but obviously he's not a very good representative anymore of anything, but kind of a selfish cunt. But I'm just saying that that's what you're after, is the culture part. And the South doesn't want to do anything to enrich culture. They don't even want separate and equal, but equal. They want separate and unequal. So they're not trying at all. And as your next statement proves, you're not trying at all. Instead of just saying you hate niggers, say, you didn't need to do that. I mean, that was just you showing how you can somehow own, okay, and that you can play a game like that. And it's kind of just gross. And it just shows that maybe you're, not much of a human being, that you can't even stop that. I mean, that's something Donald Trump would do. His father certainly did it. And don't want to live anywhere near them. You just sugarcoat shit and complicate the shit out of everything. There's nothing complicated about the statement of the difference between being a bigot, okay, and having personal preferences. It's okay to have personal preferences. It's not okay to rig the system to be unfair to something else that might be in competition with your ideals. I would like my ideals, or the culture I would defend, to win an honest fight. I don't want to win a dishonest fight. I have certain preferences to how people talk, meaning no ebonics, look, no shaggy pants Tyrone. So again, just more, instead of just making an argument, you have to keep throwing this crap into the argument. And he puts quotes on that, like this has something to do, one quote, no end quote. Like this was quoting somebody, and it's not. Whom I'm attracted to or want to have as a neighbor. Yeah, these are all subjects. I mean, I would want to have Sidney Poitier as a neighbor. I've met lots of black people I'd like to have as neighbors, because you could have a rational conversation with them. They spoke normal English, and you didn't have to worry about them playing you with their less than admirable ethics or something. So do Southerners. I live amongst them. Well, so did I, and so you want to play a game like they're not the most ignorant bigots walking the face of the earth, and go ahead and pretend. But I lived among them, and they talked like you. They thought like you. It was so simplistic. They thought that this is a genetic thing. See, they're darkies, and they can't do any better, and they're only made for certain jobs, and blah, 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 blah. And they don't understand that the fact that our cultures have diverged because of segregation, and they've diverged in kind of a very unpleasant way because, of the obvious economic problem, the fact that the blacks were given no legacy wealth. They earned ownership of something with all their labor, and they weren't paid for hundreds of years, and they couldn't inherit it like whites have, a legacy. And so you're pretending that the deficits in their culture are something they made, and it's not something whitey made. Just like the Indians we emasculated, the ones that surrendered, and we turned them into creatures that weren't good for anything, just alcoholic bums, because they didn't have anything to invest in. They didn't belong anywhere anymore. They didn't have any world to fit into. You create people that don't have a world to fit into, they're not going to have a culture you're going to understand. Fuckhead. I live amongst them. I don't know many Southerners who hate all black people simply because they're black. But they do have philosophical, ideological beliefs that are fundamentally different than the beliefs of educated people who realize that any differences you see between a black man and a white man in terms of how they behave is a consequence of the environment that enriched them. Asshole. Alright, there's enough. No point in reading the rest of it. It's just, fuck you. You're an idiot. Yeah. Alright. Okay, so then Logical Imperialist said, Moshe man is so fucking evil. Well, that's just so fucking useless. But another guy who calls himself Logical Empiricist. And there's just nothing logical about the little weasel. Or what he does on the internet. He's a phantasmagorical fairy wisher. Fairy chaser. Alright, Hent Coven. That's another guy. Pretend to be somebody. Pretend. About the money, how much is spent of the military? How much is spent of the military? And they can't even, it's a 8-word sentence, and you think 9-word sentence, you think you could get some of it right. About the money, how much is spent of the military every day? You couldn't just read that and say, oh, whoops, I forgot a word somewhere in there. That doesn't make any sense. So the people who keep talking, like Piro does this all the time. Oh, well, we could solve all the world's problems. We just quit. No, see, it's this whole argument I've made about making a nest before you lay eggs. I'm making the argument that, yes, I believe we could do so much better. And we're wasting so much money coddling the rich. And we don't need to spend $1 zillion on a military industrial complex to make it all push button, to do these silly interventions. We could do it on half the military we have, or a quarter of the military. So that's hundreds of billions of dollars a year we could save. But the point is you have to make that politically viable. You have to first prove you can cut military spending, and nobody's been able to do it. And so before you can talk about spending the money that we should be able to spend, because we shouldn't be wasting it on this military shit, first you have to prove you can do it. It's just like the whole argument I've made about taxes and spending and all that shit. First you got to prove you can raise a tax on the rich. Prove to me you can do it, and then talk about how you're going to spend the money. But prove you can get the money first. And none of these assholes ever get the money first. And that's why you have $19 trillion in debt. They just talk about what should be instead of making what should be what is. And that's what you have to do first. Oh, the truth quest again. Fuck. Moot point once again. We spend $20,000 for each prisoner. Yes, another liability that, is part of the maintenance of civilization. Locking people up for nonviolent crimes. Well, again, just because a crime isn't violent doesn't mean it's not hugely socially expensive. car thieves cost us a fortune. I mean, just an absolute fortune is wasted because of these little nuisance jack turds. And when you think about shoplifting, for example, I mean, a huge expense. We're all paying the bill. We're all paying higher prices because of these stupid petty criminals. So, you can talk about non-violent crimes, but some of these passing bad checks, running scams. I mean, there's lots of people in prison, and they're in prison for a reason, because they're shitty fucking cunts. And you usually don't end up in prison until you've done a sufficient amount of screwing somebody over, more than once. On top of the fact that we offer no rehabilitation. Well, how do you rehabilitate somebody who doesn't want to work he doesn't want to, they don't have any skills except knowing how to be a thug or a crook. And so they can make $20 an hour or $30 an hour being a crook, or they can make $8 an hour being an honest person. So how do you rehabilitate somebody if that's the reality? I mean, the places where we do rehabilitate them, what do we rehabilitate them to be? Working at call centers selling some sort of bullshit, some sort of fraud, committing fraud in prison. While they're in prison, they're being paid to commit fraud. So what is the nature of this rehabilitation in the economy that exists? Low-skilled labor has no value. Automation has made sure it's over. Machines do it better. And so you have to have some kind of skills, and you have to be some kind of responsible and dependable person. And even if you're running a machine, it's dangerous, the machine. You have to be able to hit the on-off button at the right time and shit. You can't be a total fuck-up. It's not just digging ditches anymore. Even unskilled labor is skilled labor. We don't give a fuck about solutions. Well, again, the solution to what? Crime. So, so you can say that, we can let all these drug offenders out because we can legalize drugs, and all you people are going to feel all swell about that. Having all these assholes who, like the drunken peasants who can't go 5 minutes without taking a hit off their hookah, and you want them driving on the roads. I mean, frankly, you people just scare the fuck out of me in the sense of the trade-offs you're willing to make. And we know that even if you make drugs legal, there's still going to be a black market because people are going to try to evade the taxes. So there's still going to be plenty of homegrown, and still going to be plenty of people, playing the game. All right, so the private prison complex can use them as slaves. Well, yeah, there's lots of people who want to get rid of that shit. Our state did something against that, but, Hillary was against them. I don't think Donald's going to do anything about it. I'm very much pro-capital punishment for serious offenders, though. Yeah, well, I'm very much for expedient and fair and real justice, so yes, and the governor should sign the damn thing saying, I'm sure he's guilty. I have and taking responsibility for mistakes. I have a much bigger, because there shouldn't be any mistakes. I have a much bigger problem with keeping people in prison for 40 years and having to pay $20,000. Yeah, well, you're going to have to pay for crime. And I'm just saying, to me, prevention is worth the price you have to pay for it. And so you're creating deterrence with this $20,000. So for every $20,000 you pay to punish somebody, you probably disincentivize a whole bunch of people who might get into the same racket. That's all. Let's see, $20,000 from my taxes to keep them there than I do with food stamps. Well, food stamps, just as long as you keep making babies with food stamps, that's the one that's going to hurt you in the long run. No point in feeding crack whores. frankly. What's your solution to prisons, serial killers, rapists, and such especially? Why do I have to have a solution? My solution is I believe in reward and punishment. We should reward people for being good people, and we should punish the fuck out of people being shitty, and that way people will have incentive to be good. How about that? Too complicated? Let's see. Prisons make money from each prisoner. So this is Nikki Tech. The prisoner's family as well. Sorry, that's just bullshit. The price we pay for phone calls alone might startle you if you look into it. Each prisoner is a de facto consumer shopper with each prison. That is why money is valuable commodity behind bars. Family gets billed for some charges too. You certainly have to buy your privileges. You know, if your family has money, then yeah, you can get a cigarette now and then or something, I guess. So Truth Quest again, obnoxious fuck. 1, we already have a guarantee thingy where people have to prove that they can take care of themselves before they come over. Well, they don't have to prove it, so that's the whole point. It would work, okay? The sponsorship thing would work if it was real. Then we wouldn't be paying welfare, and 70% of the immigrants wouldn't be on welfare. So that's just bullshit. It's called legal migration. I don't know why he calls it that. That's how I got here from Europe back in 2000. Well, again, the subject isn't legal immigration. And I would not increase the number of legal immigrants either, just because they're the ones taking all the better jobs. So we're talking about the illegal immigration. That's the subject of the video, retard. We are most certainly not in $20 trillion debt because our social safety net. Well, I don't know what else you think is the problem, but no, that's it. But because we spend trillions on wars for the sake of Israel. So again, one of your little conspiracy theories. I mean, Vietnam wasn't for Israel. We spend money on war because defense contractors make money on the hardware, and you have to use the hardware for them to make more hardware. So we have wars because they have to burn up the old stuff before they can justify making some more. If America is really in such bad shape as you describe it to be, I wonder why people are happy to move there. Well, that's because we haven't overtly got shit in the living room yet. They do. They've shitting up their house so bad, they can't find anywhere in the house to even sit down without sitting in shit. I mean, the entire country has been turned into a toilet. So the simple answer to your question is because they've overpopulated, created no infrastructure, created no kind of civilization, and they're living in shit. They actually have whole cities on dumps in South America, living on the dump. That's why they come here. It's because, yes, they're substantially a lower version. They're 1.0 civilization. Stupid question. Alright, now, stupid Alyssa Lamo, L-A-M-O, Lamo. You say there aren't any jobs for immigrants. I say there aren't any jobs for almost anybody. That working is not... there's nothing to manufacture here. So everything's a part of the service economy, which is the indulgences of the wealthy create jobs. We're servants to their needs. We're painting their fingernails, marbling their toilets, that kind of thing. But then you say the business interests are pushing for more immigration. For what? Question mark. I just can't believe how stupid you can be. Yes, to drive wages down. You don't understand that if there's too many people for a job, then the people will undercut each other. Like one guy will say, well, I'll do the job for $5. And the other guy is saying, well, I got to feed my family, so I'll do it for $4.50. And the other guy says, no, I got 3 kids. I'll do it for $4.25. You don't understand how that works, dumb fuck. Which is it? No, there's no which is it. It's just capitalism. It's business. You don't understand it? Obviously you don't. You can have it both ways. What both ways am I trying to have it? There's insufficient jobs. There's no workers have no bargaining power because they're replaceable easily at lower prices. You don't understand that? Oh, yeah, I guess not, because you're dumb. So, a couple of people responded. Well, one did. There are no jobs above minimum wage, but there are, of course, jobs under it that can be done illegally. And what job can a migrant do if he or she cannot be worth a wage at or above the minimum wage? Well, the point is that wages have to be subsidized by social services because the wages are insufficient to pay for just the basic maintenance of a life. You can't pay the rent on the minimum wage in most places. A minimum wage job isn't going to pay rent on a regular living thing. You would have to have some shared living arrangement. And then so the retard responds, but companies pay as low as they can get away with. Duh. If we made it so companies had to pay minimum wage whether they were offshoring or whether they were hiring domestically, they would choose the latter. But then they wouldn't be companies. I don't understand. You're going to shut China down, so you somehow have the power to stop China from producing something? So the only way you could do that is to put up tariffs or say you're not going to allow any imported items, because the Chinese aren't just going to voluntarily say, okay, we'll just pay our employees $15 an hour because you said so. It's not going to happen. But let's say it did happen. You don't have any consumers that can afford the price, and so there's no economy anyway. Nothing could be made because nobody could buy it, because no one has any money except for the rich. You dumb bitch. That's what I'm advocating for, is that companies have to pay minimum wage or they cannot sell or conduct business operations in the U.S. Well, that's just as pretty much, again, what do you expect to happen to prices? So there's no consumption then. So just understand that it shuts down the industry. So, you know, whether you think that's good or bad, I don't know whether you think that's better that we shut it all down. But the point is you're not going to be able. You're going to be priced out of the market in the sense that if somebody in Canada can buy the same thing we could buy, and they could buy it at 1/4 or 1/8 the price, you can understand how we would have a huge competitive disadvantage in terms of the quality of our life and all the rest of that stuff if we have to pay so much more for everything. And to be honest, that's the way it should be. I'm just saying because I don't believe in the exploitation wages. But I'm just saying that you won't have an economy then. So you have to do something to subsidize production. So that then you almost get into communism, where you'd almost have to be forced to create nationalized industries to provide basic services because nobody could afford them otherwise. Nobody but the rich. Oh, here's another jerky comment by the same jerky cunt. You claim for your world government where everyone pays into the safety net system. Well, again, I didn't say anything about a safety net system. So I don't know what that really is. I'm not for obliging people to spend $10,000 a year for health care. Okay, I don't think any of us are worth, let's say the average lifespan is 75 years, that's $750,000. I don't think anybody's doing $750,000 worth of anything. They're not worth that kind of price maintenance-wise. If that's what it costs to keep you assholes alive, you're not worth it. So that price has got to be reduced. Okay, and you cannot have insane amounts of wealth passed from generation to generation. Well, we're talking about passed from individual to individual. But that pie in the sky dream isn't going to happen in one lifetime. Well, says you, and what's pie in the sky about it? Like I said, we had 70-80% tax rates back in the 60s. The middle class, the workers were getting richer and the rich were getting poorer in the 50s and 60s. Exactly the opposite of what's happening now. But there were things we can do today to relieve human suffering in the world. And again, at what cost and to what productive end. You can feed starving people, and then if they just make more babies, then tomorrow you'll have twice as many starving people to feed. And yeah, part of that would mean not favoring people because of what country they were born in. Well, again, it's not about favoring people for what country they're born in. It's just a pragmatic fact that if you attempt to oblige one society to take care of all of these problems, then it'll have nothing but the problems. It'll be killed by it. It can't. It's like trying to make a medicine go too far. If you try to spread it too thin, then it's not medicine anymore. That's simple. It's not that complicated. Well, apparently it is complicated enough where you think there's no amount of investment you can make in human beings that somehow is automatically a payback, and it's not. There's a ton of people who just take out of a system and they don't give anything back. And if you invest too much money in those people, then you won't have any money to invest in the people who would give something back. And if you want to win a culture war, how would it benefit you to keep the religious out of your country where their children might be exposed to better ideas? Well, the point is that that's not usually how religion works. That it is generational and it does spread genetically, almost, as if it was a genetic disorder, because it's indoctrination of children. Now, yes, it would be better if you had to have a Muslim, it would be better to have it in a culture where it's going to be exposed to more information. It's not going to be in a closed society that never even gives it the option to see any other belief system or any other idea. But again, what's the price you pay for that? For the very few that you might convert, you have the liability of the imbeciles that you're going to be subsidizing. Better to have them breed somewhere that they will likely be brainwashed and probably exploited by your colonistic government, so they can grow up and possibly become mutually anti-American, militantly anti-American. Well, again, if you think you can take all of the people from Syria, is that your argument? That's not going to happen. You're not going to end the existence of Syria or Saudi Arabia or Iraq or Afghanistan. So they're breeding like 8 kids on average per person. So, you really think you can make a dent in the anti-American, the militantly anti-American population on Earth by importing them? That's a silly idea. That's how you win the culture war, right? No, you win the culture war by, I think, doing sensible thing. The sensible thing I would do, instead of having wars, instead of dropping bombs on the Middle East, I would drop pamphlets explaining just the ABCs of existence. Newsflash, there's no fucking God. Yeah. And give them some reason to invest in a few eloquent words about being a good representative of the human species, and trying to do your best to find a way to mitigate these conflicts. Like, even if you have to believe in your little special religion, that you should understand that it's something you do in your bedroom. You don't fuck everybody else with your God. Everything you say here is racist. Don't deny that. I don't know what the fuck that is. Let's see. It says here, brainwashed and possibly exploited by your colonistic government, so they can grow up. Okay, that's how you win a culture war, right? And you are a racist. Everything you say here is racist. Don't deny that. Well, I'm going to deny that. It's idiotic. Like I said, I have no use for ignorant white people. So I'd just as soon send the people of Mississippi, the white ones, to Syria. Yes, they belong somewhere like that. They belong someplace uncivilized. Oh dear, and somebody typed a whole big pile of crap as a response. You don't need immigration for importing ideas. Modern Japan is a great example of a high-tech country. It gets all the information it needs. Well, Japan's a good example of a country where people, they have a couple of cultural standards of losing face, ideas like that where it matters, that you don't, that humiliation is a fatal disease. I mean, being outed as a criminal or a crook or a creep, and that shows a lot of integrity in the foundation of the culture that works alone. Just the idea of being demonstrated, of the idea of humiliating your family matters, and unfortunately it doesn't matter here. But anyway, I'm not going to read all this crap. Alright, let's see. So she says, whatever. In no way, shape, or form did you address my post. Why can't citizenship be expanded? Well, because infrastructure costs money. And we have it. We have civilization, a higher standard of it. And it's expensive. And again, this idea that you can reclimate the world, the rest of the world's diseased people, it's just like a healthcare system. Let's say we had a great healthcare system and there was a bunch of people who were diseased. You don't think it would degrade the quality of our healthcare system if we were to import a bunch of people with diseases? Yes, we can help them, but it's going to cost us. And so you think it doesn't cost anything, and it does, and we're already broke, so that's my argument. Show me the money, and then I'll show you reason why you can expand, trying to fix the rest of the world. Let's see, Ron Johnson. I think it had more to do with gerrymandering, and we are $19 trillion in net, not because of Mexicans, but rather because of Bush. Well, it didn't start with Bush, it started with Reagan, and Clinton and everybody else just piled on. I mean, except for the very few years where Clinton had an accidental surplus. So I'm just saying that, okay, you can disagree that you think the fundamental issue that drove, that fractured the Democratic coalition, that made the Democrats too weak to defeat a very bad Republican candidate wasn't the subject of immigration. I think it obviously was. Yeah, it's not a winner. And so if the Democratic Party keeps tying itself to that subject, it's going to need to make up those votes. So the 5 million votes it's losing, it's going to have to make them up from somewhere. So where's it going to get them? It's going to have to bribe somebody else to vote. So then it's going to start doing some kind of, like the Blue Dogs did, like the Clintons did. They made compromises with business. But you're not going to be able to, the Democratic Party is not going to win anything ever again if it thinks pro-immigration is the way to go, the road to victory, because it's not. All right, great video, Gary. I'm not saying, like I said, it's nothing like the you have to be draconian about it. The point is there's no reason to defend illegal immigration. All right, Piro. We obviously could afford to take care of ourselves, but we're busy taking care of the extremely rich. Well, again, the symptom of our poverty is obvious. I mean, what we're after is, the cause of the poverty is obvious. But, again, you're never going to fix that first. So, fix that first, and then start talking about how to spend the money. We are choosing how to spend our money, and you are protecting the status quo of spending and making the rich even richer. So, how could this liar say something as silly as that? We are choosing how to spend our money, and you are protecting the status quo of spending it on making the rich even richer. I've made so many videos about how evil the rich are. You're the one who's defended entrepreneurs and their right to inherit money. So what the fuck is that, you lying scum? Alright, anyways, let's see, I'm going to delete this one, so even though there's a guy who commented, so I'll read the piglet's remarks. How is it increasing the supply of low-skilled labor in the interest of private companies? Well, there's no answer to that. So Piro got 5 thumbs up on that comment, where he says, we are choosing how to spend our money, which I don't know what that even means, and you are protecting the status quo of spending it on making the rich even richer. And how the fuck am I doing that? By pointing out how immigration doesn't make poor people richer. God, what a scumbag. Alright, then he writes, why am I paying for the safety net that helps you? So these are people supposed to have some kind of sincere belief in the idea of an insurance thing and this and that, and then when it comes to this, then they say why. They play this game. So I guess I should say, well, why did any of us why do I have to pay taxes to educate your kids? And so you could kill them. Yeah. I don't have evidence you've paid more into the system than you've cost. Well, I could argue that my father did, and maybe I could just argue that my whole family, generally speaking, yes, I'm the little black sheep failure, but that their successes certainly compensate for my limitations. Probably much better than your family ever did, fuckhead. So if you want to have a family competition, then we'll see what a bunch of losers your family's made out of, and how many of them have eaten at the food stamp trough and all that kind of shit. But what you are a white guy, so I must want to do that. I don't even know what that means. So, but anyway, and again, I haven't advocated for investing in people with substantial disabilities. I mean, there is no, society's not going to win doing that, and that's why they should have a graceful exit policy. They should allow people to choose not to be rescued. And I certainly would have chosen not to be put in perpetual poverty and maintained, a survival subsistence. But as part of it, I'd almost say your safety net is so fucking dismal, so horrid, such an obscenity, in terms of the quality of it as insurance. It's pretty horrible, because it certainly doesn't insure you against the horrors of poverty. It just keeps you alive. Anyway, so Nikki Tech says, sometimes you leave comments to go too far. This is one of them. Let's see. Another stupid neoliberal that doesn't understand that there is a difference between paying for stuff out of one's own pocket and participating in an insurance scheme. Yes, obviously, I would think that if Social Security is going to be not understood to be insurance, then they should force parents, assholes like Piro who make babies, they should make the people who have babies buy insurance against their child's failures. So the parents should be paying insurance to protect society from the liability of their failures as parents. So why don't you man up and pay the freight for your failures, fuckhead? Your failures, not mine. I didn't create anything. I didn't impose anything. It was imposed on me, fuckhead. Let's see. Nikki, sometimes you leave comments that are too stupid, all of them. Now Dr. Samuel Hayden, fuck you. And Gary may be on Social Security now, but he's been propped up by the government since the 80s for his anxiety. Well, that was always Social Security, jackass. And I had to, well, whenever you go through a 2-year process. My anxiety disorder is none of your business, but it's obviously a substantial impediment to my existence, a horribly unpleasant thing to have to live with for 40 years, you fucking cunts. And I just wish there was some sort of the scheme of words. I wish we could put some kind of action to the words, because I'd like you fuckers to say this shit to my face. I mean, it's just kind of grotesque. It hasn't happened to you. Okay, you have no appreciation for just how bad mental illness can be. And you're going to force me to somehow justify being sick. Oh, fuck you. I mean, I should be able to call you out, on some kind of shit like that. Anyway, which he has admitted is just the burning hatred for the human race. Well, I haven't admitted any such thing, but the fact that I hate the human race is, cause or effect. It really doesn't matter. Does it? He hasn't paid even remotely close to the same level he's taken. Well, again, you say so. Relative to the amount of hours I worked and the kind of work I did, you can say it's not sufficient payment. But I say that's bullshit. The fact that I'd saved over $30,000 before I was 17 years old of money I earned delivering newspapers and washing dishes, minimum wage and less jobs. Yes, again, fuck you. This is none of your business anyway, but fuck you people. Just fuck you till dead. Alright, you're putting quotes around anxiety as if you don't believe it's true. That's unfortunate. Yeah, well, again, that's Nicky Tech. Again, I'm not even gonna read any more of this shit. It's just nobody's business. And, I can make an argument about society and its structure, and it doesn't have to come from personal, anecdotal anything. It's totally irrelevant to the argument. And it's the weak asses like Piro who can't make a stand-up argument. Again, if he wants me to just keep rubbing his face in his failure, I can do that. How he can't learn lesson 1, right? The guy's still a drunk, basically. Can't even make a video saying, you know what, drugs are bad, okay? Trust me, I know. Okay, I have a little bit of personal knowledge I've gained. The information. The universe has dumped some information on me. In a really personal, big, giant, huge dildo up your ass kind of way. The information was decisive, and it was shoved vigorously up my ass. And yet he hasn't learned a fucking thing. He talks about using your will. He can't even use his will to understand that, there's certain chains of cause and effect, and the simplest thing in the world to do is to say, you know what, there are some things that human beings are doing now that are totally unproductive. And one of them is using mood-altering drugs for anything other than occasional recreation, little holidays, but it's not a lifestyle. Can't even manage that. It's dangerous, it's entrapping, and it destroys people every fucking day. There was 2 people killed in New York today by a drunk driver going the wrong way in traffic. Well, no, one girl was killed, and her little sister is in the hospital, critically messed up. Yeah, drugs are bad, okay? Jesus. What a cunt. Morbid atheist. He just keeps typing tons and tons of shit, and again, he just doesn't get it, alright? What I've said before, if Bernie Sanders had to actually debate Donald Trump, people didn't know what Bernie Sanders believed. People thought Bernie Sanders just was, oh yeah, let's go get the rich and let's tax the rich. They didn't know he was like almost for open borders. They had no idea. So I'm just saying, once he was in the debate with Trump and Trump started attacking him on his open border crap, he would have just lost all meaning and relevance. And they both could agree on the silly idea of, like, we haven't seen Trump do anything about it, right? The $2 trillion in foreign money that's going to pay all our bills. We're going to go get that $2 trillion back from all those evil corporations. None of that's ever going to happen because, yeah, it's legitimate money. They do business in other countries. Yeah, you can't just go steal the money. Amazing. It's like forcing the English to pay property taxes in America or something. It's fucking retarded. But anyway, enough of the video. Stupid commenters or stupid piles of pus. Mostly. So anyway, enough of this crap. Crappy subject. So anyway, till next time. And the such.